Thank you for joining me in my backyard. We got a little more fun and relaxed type conversation here today. If you guys haven't been watching this series, what we're doing here is we are going through my I Love Me binder. In this binder is everything that I accomplished during my career in the SEAL teams. And every one of these certificates of graduation holds a ton of stories and memories and knowledge. And I've never done this before, but this binder has been with me for a long time. And I want to share it with you because I think it's cool. And I want to share some new stories and maybe some lessons learned. And that's what this is all about. I got a big one for you right here today. This is a very, very valuable certificate that I earned. This one right here, SEAL Qualification Training. You guys have probably heard me talk about S.Q.T before, but we're going to go a little more in depth about my experience in S.Q.T. All right? Yeah, this was a hard one to get. It took me about 2 years of the hardest work in my entire life to earn this piece of paper. And there's a lot that's wrapped up in this piece of paper. SEAL Qualification Training is a 6-month-long training pipeline that you go through after you graduate BUDS. All right? So BUDS is like your basic training. SEAL Qualification is your advanced training. All right? So, lots and lots of lessons learned during this 6 months of my life. Once you graduate SEAL Qualification Training, you actually get your Trident. So you don't get your SEAL Trident when you graduate BUDS. You get it when you graduate S.Q.T. Man, SEAL Qualification started out for us with Kodiak, Alaska, cold weather survival training. I've got a special certificate for graduating that, and we're going to talk about that on another episode. We went from cold weather survival to jump school, free fall, and static line. I've got certificates for that. We're going to talk about those in depth later. We moved on from there and went into advanced combat diving. We'll start here in S.Q.T. Let me tell you right now, if there is one thing that I hated about being a SEAL, it was combat diving. Now, we got a little taste of diving in BUDS, but S.Q.T, the diving was a whole nother ball game, man. 2 dives a day on a dregger, a rebreather, a dive in the morning and a dive at night, every single day. Those dives lasted about anywhere from 2 to 4 hours each. All right? Ship attacks, OTB, over the beach operation, swimming into piers with limpet mines, diving into piers with limpet mines underneath these massive ships and finding where you're going to place this explosive. At night, you can't see anything. I'll never forget, this was the first time I had ever seen what's called bioluminescence. This dive training was done in the San Diego Bay. And I'll never forget going out on one of my night dives. And there was a lot of bioluminescence in the water. And I'll never forget looking down at my swim buddy and just seeing like sparkles just like coming off of his body. And I thought I was going freaking crazy because everything else is pitch black. All you can see is your attack board, right? It has a little compass on it that's lit up with a chem light. That's all you can see. Look down at my swim buddy and he's glowing. And I'm like, what the crap? We come off of this dive and I'm like, man, what was going on? And that's when somebody smarter than me explained that it was bioluminescence in the water. 2 dives a day. Let me tell you right now, the San Diego Bay is a nasty, nasty body of water. When the tide comes in, it pulls all the crap out of Tijuana. These people down in Tijuana, they're crapping in ditches, man. They don't have garbage service. They're dumping everything out in the roads, right? And it's getting all in the water. All that stuff ends up in the San Diego Bay. I don't think there's a single person that went through combat swimmer dive training in S.Q.T that didn't get sick. Every single one of us got sick. If you got a little cut on your arm somewhere, guarantee you it'd be infected in a day because there was so much bacteria in that water. Nasty, nasty, brutal training, man. We finally got done with dive training. I don't know, it lasted about a month, something like that. We moved on to land warfare. We all loaded up. We went out to a place called Nyland. Nyland. It's this massive wilderness out in the desert, somewhere in Southern California. I don't even know if you punch Nyland in on your map, I don't even know if it'd pull it up. There was nothing. Nothing. And we were self-contained in this compound, and we did land warfare for about a solid month out there in the desert, smoking hot, hard work, just running patrol to contact, IADs, learning individual movement techniques. One of the things that stood out for me during land warfare is one day they told us we were going to do an 18-mile ruck run, 18 miles. And so we all had to put sandbags in our rucksacks. And of course the instructors come by and they weigh them all. I don't remember what the weight was, 40 pounds, something like that. They were heavy, right? And they're the old Alice packs, the nasty ones. And we fill our rucksacks up. We go out on this 18-mile ruck run. Now you're competing with your other classmates to finish this thing first, and you got this big heavy weight on your back. By the end of that run, I'm gonna say 90% of my classmates, their arches in their feet collapsed. Their arches collapsed. It was just that distance with that weight. We were already beat down, we were already tired. Man, we got up the next day from that ruck run, and let me tell you, nobody could walk right. Not a single person. Brutal, brutal training. I had a little personal problems in land warfare. This was probably about midway through S.Q.T. And what happens is by the time you get to, or when you class up for S.Q.T, you get a lot of people that have been rolled from other classes, right? So you might graduate buds with 18. I think we had 18 guys, something like that, graduated buds. When we classed up for S.Q.T, we had like 53 people in our class. And all these other people, minus the 15 that graduated buds, all these other people were people that were rolled back from other classes. They were recycled. I didn't like that, man. I thought that was screwed up. Because guess what? When I went through SEAL training, I never got rolled. I never got a break. I went all the way through. And here I'm looking at these other dudes and I'm like, you guys got a vacation, right? You got to hang out for 6 months while your freaking shin splints got better. And now you're here and it pissed me off, dude. And so I treated these people like trash. My own classmates. I mean, it wasn't right. I shouldn't have did this. But I looked down on these people. And if there was something that some pointless, meaningless job that needed to be done, like before we went and ran at IADs one night, if we had to jam, 200 M4 mags with ammo before we went out and stepped off, I'd be like, well, the freaking rollbacks should jam the mags. They got a freaking vacation. Let them jam the mags. And I hated them. And I just talked to them like trash. And guess what? They hated me back. And guess what? They had the numbers. We had 15 original, 53 or 54 in the class. They had the majority. I'll never forget one time we were getting ready to go out on a night op in land warfare, and the rollbacks were out there jamming the mags, and I strolled up, and one of them said, "Man, why aren't you down here jamming these mags?" And I just walked up to that joker and I just straight leg kicked him right in the chest. He was sitting on an ammo can. And he flew back off the ammo can. He got up, everybody started freaking out. "Why'd you kick this?" I'm like, "Dude, you're a freaking turd, man." And bad attitude. They had the numbers. During land warfare, they actually voted me into the bottom 5 of my class because they had the numbers. I was bottom 5. Every so often, S.Q.T, you did peer evaluations, right? That was the only time I was ever voted in bottom 5 of my class. And when you get bottom 5, you have to go in and have a little powwow with the instructor cadre. And they're asking you, why are you bottom 5 in your peer evals? And man, I just thought that was freaking screwed up, man. So I had to work through that in my own mind. And I think I got a little better attitude throughout S.Q.T. But in land warfare, I wasn't feeling it, son. I wasn't feeling it. You move on from land warfare, you do close quarters combat, CQC. Super, super intense training. That's where you're clearing complex structures. All right? Everything has to be perfect in CQC. I actually have a picture. I might get Blake to throw it in this video. If you made a mistake in CQC, there was this massive hill. The kill houses that we trained in were at the bottom of the hill, the kill houses and the ranges. There was a driveway that went up to a water tower. It was probably a half a mile straight up. If you screwed anything up, I'm talking about if you entered a doorway and you took one step too many, you had to take this dang sled. And this sled has some 1-inch nylon webbing tied to it. You had to wrap that webbing around you. You had all your body armor, everything on, and you had to drag that freaking sled up to that water tower and back down to the range before you could begin training again. I'm talking about brutal. I got a picture of me dragging that sled, man. You'll see the look on my face. Yeah, you'll get it. CQC, the spotlight was on everybody there. You could not hide. You had to do everything perfect. Probably one of the most stressful, mentally stressful blocks of training that we did during S.Q.T. After you leave CQC, you have a little bit of comms training. You go through medical training, TCCC, where they bring a load of pigs out. You get to learn how to save a pig's life. And then ultimately you go on to SEER training, which we got another video all about SEER training. And then you finally graduate and you get your Trident and you get to move on to your SEAL team. I might have missed a thing or two throughout S.Q.T, but that's the core of that training, all right? Super, super intense, super complex. And yeah, this certificate right here, whew, that's a hard one to get. S.Q.T is still a selection process. Out of those 54 that were in that S.Q.T class, we probably only graduated 40-something. So you can still get dropped from training in S.Q.T at any point if you don't hit the standards. So the pressure was on. You just got done with 6 months of the hardest military training in the world, and you move on to another 6 months of a real selection phase doing complex tasks. That just gives you a little bit of insight into why those of us that wear a Trident feel so strongly about that Trident. Enough said.